talk today about Baizhang and the fox, case number 2, a familiar one for many of us. Before I share the case and begin unpacking it a little bit, I want to say, I want to just lift up this idea, word, reactivity. In so many ways, reactivity is the center of what we practice for and about, to not to suppress our reactivity, but to just gradually become more aware of it. Reactivity will do what it needs to do, but it tends to go away a lot more calmly and swiftly when we attend to it, when we notice that that's what it is that's coming up. When I spoke to you all last time, about 5 or 6 months ago, I was talking about the Four Noble Truths, which are standardly, the first one is that dukkha happens. Stuff happens, dukkha. The first noble truth is the truth of dukkha. And then the second one was the one I particularly wanted to turn around. The standard way that that's given is that there is a cause of dukkha. And what I offered then was that a better reading of that would be not that there's a cause of dukkha, but that there's an effect of dukkha. The second noble truth isn't what causes dukkha, it's what dukkha causes. And what dukkha causes is our reactivity. And sometimes that reactivity generates more dukkha, but in the first round, it's the reactivity that dukkha itself kicks up. Dukkha is, as the Buddha says in that first talk of his, it's birth, death, sickness, and old age. It's being exposed, or it's having things that we wish would go away and not having things that we wish would stay. All of those things are not going to be cured by the Eightfold Path. It's not going to cure any of that. But what we can address is reactivity, that reactivity to the dukkha that arises. So if we're talking about what dukkha causes and what the effects of dukkha are, then we're talking about cause and effect. And so it seemed to me a natural next step in the development of those thoughts would be to look at Gateless Gate case number 2, because that is where we most directly in the koan curriculum address this issue of causes and effect. So here's the case in the Yamada koan translation. Whenever Master Baizhang delivered a sermon, an old man was always there listening with the monks. When they left, he left too. One day, however, he remained behind. The master asked him, "What are you standing in front of me?" The man replied, "Indeed, I am not a human being. In the past, in the time of Kashyapa Buddha, I lived on this mountain as a priest. On one occasion, a monk asked me, 'Does a perfectly enlightened person fall under the law of cause and effect or not?' I answered, 'He does not.' Because of this answer, I fell into the state of a fox for 500 lives. Now I beg you, Master, please say a turning word on my behalf and release me from the body of a fox." And he asked, "Does a perfectly enlightened person fall under the law of cause and effect or not?" The master answered, "The law of cause and effect cannot be obscured." Upon hearing this, the old man immediately became deeply enlightened. Making his bow, he said, "I have now been released from the old fox and will be behind the mountain. I dare to make a request of the master. Please perform my funeral as you would for a deceased priest." The master had the Eno strike the anvil with a gavel and announced to the monks that after the meal there would be a funeral service for a deceased priest. The monks wondered, saying, "All are healthy, no one is sick in the infirmary. What's this all about?" After the meal, the master led the monks to the foot of a rock behind the mountain and with his staff poked out the dead body of a fox. He then performed the ceremony of cremation. That evening, the master ascended the rostrum in the hall and told the monks the story. Huang Bo thereupon asked, "The man of old missed the turning word and fell into the state of a fox for 500 lives. Suppose every time he answered he made no mistakes. What would happen then?" The master said, "Just come nearer and I'll tell you." Huang Bo then went up to the master and slapped him. The master clapped his hands and, laughing aloud, said, "I thought the barbarian's beard was red, but here is a barbarian with a red beard." So it's Huang Bo coming in at the end with that question about suppose he had made no mistakes, that leads the first-time reader of this case to assume that what's going on is that the first Baizhang, the first master of the mountain, the one that turned into a fox for 500 lives, had given an incorrect answer, that the two different answers to this question of does a thoroughly enlightened person fall under karma, under the law of cause and effect, fall under causation or not. The first answer was incorrect, and it was opposed to the second answer. What I want to offer today is just is to look into the question of what's it like to live as though both answers are correct. What's it like if both answers are right? Suppose we take that as our starting point and explore what that would amount to. I do want to share with you, first of all, some alternate translations. Shibayama, which many of you are more familiar with, the first answer is does not fall into causation. The second answer does not ignore causation. Robert Aitken says does not fall under the law of cause and effect and does not evade the law of cause and effect. Cleary says is not subject to causality versus the second answer, not blind to causality. Guo Gu says does not fall into cause and effect versus is not deluded about cause and effect. David Hinton, who always offers a more poetic take, says the first answer is not tangled in karmic law versus the second answer is not free of karmic law. So neither free of it nor tangled in it. For Albert Lowe, it's not subject to the law of causation is the first answer, and the second is no one can escape the law of karma. Ketsuik Sakita gives not fall under the yoke of causation is the first answer, and does not ignore causation is the second. And then I shared with you already Yamada's answer. So what's it like if neither of these, we are not falling into causation, but we're not ignoring causation. We're not subject to causality, nor are we blind to causality. Now, maybe a helpful way into looking at that is we're looking at the two different perspectives, the sense in which we are totally free and our behaviors are conditioned by all of our experiences, all of the reality around us. And so it's an interesting and often overlooked part early in the case when Baizhang asks the fox, "What are you?" And the fox answers, "I am not a human being." And from that perspective applies also to all of us. We are human beings and are not. We are Mountains, rivers, the great wide earth, the sun and the moon and the stars. We are all of those things. So both totally free and totally within this human form, living both ways. And that's why Shibayama's commentary gives us that then makes free use of both not falling and not ignoring. So one more thing about the different translations of the second answer. For instance, in a couple of cases, we are told he doesn't escape the law of karma, and in another, we're not free of karmic law. It's always happening. It's always going on, whether you notice or not. No one can escape the law of karma. No one is free of karmic law. So there's that. Most of the other translations say it's important to notice. It's the not ignoring causation that's the key. Pay attention to it. Don't evade the law of cause and effect. Don't try to evade it. See it. Don't be blind to causality. So a couple of the translations are just emphasizing that it's going on anyway. Whether you see it or not, things are causing other things. But other translations are saying, yeah, but it helps to actually pay attention to how that causality is working. Notice the cause at work. But it's a particular kind of paying attention. I was reminded recently of one of the points that is a fairly central Buddhist teaching that we don't talk about a whole lot. That I don't encounter this word signlessness very much. Thich Nhat Hanh's The Heart of Buddha's Understanding has a chapter about the three things of which signlessness is one. What is this signless idea? Well, it's this way of being in the world without seeing anything as implicating anything else. Don't draw conclusions is one of my teachers used to always emphasize over and over. Don't draw no conclusions, he would emphatically say. There's this moment just as it is, just the suchness of right now. And so to not ignore cause and effect is to be aware that things are causing other things, but we're not the ones that can figure out what the causal relation is like. It's a lot more complicated than billiard balls, which is sort of billiard balls is the paradigm case of cause and effect. One billiard ball hits the other billiard ball and it goes off in that angle. And that's a very pure, simplified cause and effect. The reality of cause and effect is that everything is causing everything else. It's one big mess leading to one big mess after another. And so when we say pay attention to cause and effect, we don't mean analyze what are the causes and what are the effects. We just mean notice how one thing happens and then another thing happens. And here we are with this, and then here we are with the next thing. Just into the suchness of each moment. I want to now conclude by sharing with you all my own reimagining, retelling of the whole story in a way that brings out some of these points, recasting the whole koan. It's titled Fox in the Hen House. Long ago, in a pool hall, two novice monastics, having slipped away from Hen House Monastery for an evening of what at the time seemed to be freedom, were playing 8-ball. Clack went the cue against the solid 5-ball. Such a whole and lovely sound, and the polished colored sphere rolled so beautifully toward the pocket. Cause and effect right there, said one monk. The other monk lined up a shot, missed, and mused, does an enlightened person fall under the law of cause and effect? "What is enlightened?" said the first, and he winked. Then he added, as he took aim at the deep blue two-ball, "Ask the master about that." Clack. The next day, at afternoon samu in the garden, the two were pulling weeds. Weeds, weeds, and weeds. Well, I asked him, about the causation thing? Yeah, I asked him that. Well, what did he say? He said an enlightened person does not fall under the law of cause and effect. Huh. What about an enlightened billiard ball? I didn't ask about that. Wouldn't have had a chance to anyway. He turned into a fox and ran away. Well, I'll be damned. I know, weird, right? Another weed pulled, and then another. Do you think he'll be back for the evening tea show? 500 fox lives later, the latest master henhouse is giving the evening tea show. Monastics, he says. As to old Gautama's second point, many of you have been getting it wrong. It's not that dukkha has a cause, but that dukkha has effects. Birth, aging, illness, death, union with what is displeasing, separation from what is pleasing, not getting one once. These things are dukkha, and they cause reactions. Greed, hatred, delusion, attachment, and aversion are effects of dukkha. These effects can, in turn, cause further dukkha, but old Gautama's primary point is that reactivity is an effect of dukkha. That night, as Henhouse prepares for sleep, she hears a scratching at her door. Opening it, she finds a fox. I was listening to your talk from outside the hall, says the fox. Were you? Says Henhouse. I have a question. Ask. Would enlightenment free one from the law of cause and effect? Asks the fox. The law of cause and effect. Are we talking about billiard balls? What I mean is, says the fox, this reactivity that you were talking about, can one be liberated from reactivity? Oh, that law of cause and effect. Gotcha, says Henhouse as she steps outside and sits down beside the fox on the portico floor. Yes, liberation is possible. It would be lovely to not have reactivity, to be free of that for good. Liberated from does not mean free of. Liberated from means not having to be controlled by reactions. There will always be reactions. To avoid falling under their control requires paying careful attention to them. Attend to the arising of reactivity. Attend to its budding and blossoming. Investigate into its nature at every step. The fox silently stares off at the distant moon rising over the tree line. At length he says, I once told a monk that an enlightened person does not fall under cause and effect. I heard there was a master here once who said that and then became a fox. Yep, that was me. You were right what you said. The law of cause and effect cannot be obscured, not if one is manifesting enlightenment. In delusion, we do continually obscure cause and effect from ourselves. When the roots of reactivity are not investigated and they remain hidden, reactivity dictates our actions. Insofar as we manifest enlightenment, however, reactivity is revealed, inspected, known, and thus, only thus, is falling under it avoided. So, the enlightened person does not fall under cause and effect because she doesn't obscure it. Because. Yes, attention to reactions is the cue ball that knocks us out of being controlled by reactions. Clack, says the fox. Clack, says Master Henhouse. Some weeks later, Henhouse told her senior disciple about the encounter with the fox. So if the old master henhouse had given a different answer, would he have turned into a fox still? Asked the disciple. Well, you've been around this block a few times. Don't make me say it. You say it. Clack, said the disciple. That's fine if you want to cut through the question. We've cut through a lot of questions together and seen the essential matter. Mountains and rivers, great wide earth, all included in that resounding clack. Perhaps we'd like to step off of our 100-foot pole and give such an answer as would be compassionate to a novice who asked. Clack, said the disciple again. Clack, answered Master Henhouse, louder. Okay, said the disciple, here's what I might offer, not even to a novice, but to an audience of non-practitioners. I'd say it didn't matter what answer the old master gave. For many years, old Master Henhouse had been ardently seeking to stifle all reactions. He sat like a stone because he wanted to be a stone. He exerted strenuous efforts to suppress his reactions. The monk's question brought all his suppression to a head in a moment. Those energies finally pushed him into the body of a fox. It wasn't his answer that did it. It was the question. He only had time to speak the one sentence before his mental act of considering the question released the culmination of years of suppressive practice. Your beard is as red as a 3-ball, said Henhouse. So I'll offer this final capping verse. The orange 5-ball rolling across the green felt, its vector determined by the angle and magnitude of the force that acted upon it, so utterly free, so totally liberated. That monk holding the cue stick, on the other hand, another matter. Thank you.